Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following confession that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a message that I received, and it reads like this. Hello, Brother Nanshi, how are you? Please post my story as anonymous. I am a man that comes from Nigeria. I was supposed to do some money rituals, but I then chose Jesus Christ. Even though I'm still living in poverty, life it is very difficult. The car that I am using right now, it does not belong to me. I am working for someone else, but I believe that one day God is going to give me something that is going to make my life to become better. I am staying with my wife, who is a South African woman. I will tell you more about her, how I met her, and how I did rituals after I had met my wife because of the situation, the conditions that we were living under. And when I came to South Africa, I came here because of something that had happened. I came to South Africa in the year 2008. I had already a degree and I had a dream to make it big and to return back to my country and to start a big company. In the year 2006, my father had passed away. Then my uncles came and they took our properties in the village. And my father, it was said that he owed one of my uncle a lot of money. This uncle of ours, he was very rich, but he was very evil-hearted. He was the one that he had assisted my father whenever he would get sick. Our uncle would come and collect our father as a brother, return with him back to Lagos and get him medical attention. Just when my father passed away, that was when he came to the village to collect my father's properties that he had left behind for me and my two sisters. And he said that he was going to use that land that he had grabbed from us so that he can get his money back. We thought that he was joking, but he sold off that land. We could not do anything. When my mother complained, I was in Lagos by then trying to hustle. I returned back to the village for my mother had been arrested. When I got there, my mom, she had been beaten up. And then I had a friend who had left the village to Lagos and he had came to South Africa. So I was communicating with him and he told me that he was living a better life than he used to when he was in Nigeria. So then I followed him and I came to South Africa. And by the grace of God, through one of the pastors who was a South African pastor, had his own daughter who was working at a major bank, and I got a job in IT at that bank. I thought that I had made it. I was already calculating that when my visa expires, then I would return back to Nigeria. Then things started to change. The visa that I had been using, it could not work anymore, which meant that I had a grace period in which I was supposed to leave South Africa. I went to an immigration lawyer who told me that the only way for me to have a reason to stay was if I was going to get married to a South African woman. So in short, I needed papers. I was still working at that bank, but I was supposed to fix my papers as quickly as possible. Then I met my wife. Let me say that when I married this South African woman who is my wife, I did it in a rush. I was like, any girl that I met, when we start to date, I would tell him about my situation. If she understood me, then we could get married. But it took me a couple of months meeting different women. Some of them, they did not want us to get married on paper. They just wanted to chow the money. So finally, I met a woman who then said that she was cool with it. She had no problem in us getting married legally. So we did the whole process being assisted by the immigration lawyer, of course. And then that was when we started to stay together. We were already staying together, but she was not staying with me permanently since we were not yet legally married. That is how I got my temporary residency. I thought that I was now building a home with my new South African wife. She quickly fell pregnant and we had a daughter together, but I did not know that she had calculated on her own. She saw me as her ATM. If I had money, she had no problems. The moment that I would say, I do not have money right now, then she would show me her true colors. This woman, she would change the moment that I will say that I do not have money. She was my wife, but she reminded me that I was in South Africa because of her. She started demanding amounts of money that my salary could not even reach. Like she would say, I need 20K. I was not getting paid 20K. I'm just giving you an example. Like for now, someone that is getting paid 20,000 rands, you're working in the bank, and then your girlfriend or your wife at the end of the month, whom you are staying with, by the way, says that they want a wife's allowance that is 20,000. They are just wanting all of your salary, and you have to hustle to pay the rent. I even ended up selling my car. I started using a taxi. I would carry a lunchbox with me with food that would be so embarrassing for me to eat in front of my colleagues. I would sit somewhere so that people won't see the kind of rubbish food that I was eating, because all of my salary, it was going to my wife. And when I would try to tell her that I wanted us to have some savings so that we could start a business, then she'll be like, I still remember the address of Home Affairs. I am going to Home Affairs to cancel your visa. So she would say, I was an IT guy. I was not a drug lord. I tried to explain it to him that I did not have money, so much money like she thought that I had, because I was not hustling and pushing drugs. And she was like, why don't you do it? She did not want to understand anything. And she was someone that loved to go to parties at all the times. And she wanted people to think that I was a rich Nigerian man, yet I was just a normal guy that was working in the bank. So I was desperate. I broke my own rule. When I came to South Africa, I had my own rule that I had given to myself. All that I wanted was to work and to return back to my country without ever getting arrested or getting in trouble with local people. I had my own rule which said, never associate with your own homeboys, because when you start to associate with people from your country, then you will end up doing crime, you end up doing things that you do not want to do. I knew that poverty had driven us to South Africa, and most of my friends that I knew that were in South Africa, I would avoid them because I knew that even in university, they were dangerous men. So I later called Steve. Me and Steve, we went to school together, and he was a gang leader. I did not know that he was still involved in gangs. I just thought that maybe he had changed, because the last time that I had seen him in Lagos, he was doing some Bible sermons and stuff. So when I reached out to him, then we started to talk, and then he said, if you want to make money, then you need to stop being too soft. This land, it is very rough, and in order for you to make money, you need to be rough as well. He then told me that he was having some merchandise that he wanted to introduce in the block where I was staying, since I was staying close to a student residency. He said to me, you are staying close to those students. I'm pretty sure that you have a couple of friends that you have, that you speak with. Just introduce this bit by bit, and I'm telling you that you are going to be making money. As for Steve, he was someone that I can say was very heartless. You know what they used to do? Those pin pops, they used to dip them like in drugs, and then they would wrap them again and go and sell it to the school kids. So each and every day, when your child is buying those pin pops at school, they are getting the drugs into their system, and then they will start to buy the drugs because their body is asking for the drugs. So they will have another guy that is selling drugs. So they were doing this in high school, and that is how most of the kids get addicted. They rub those pin pops into some drugs and then they sell it to the kids at school. When I learned about this did not sit very well with me. And I was like, but these are just young kids. Why are you targeting them like this? And you was like, to me, when you target them at such a young age, you know that you have a customer for life until that customer has died. And I was like, yo, what have I gotten myself involved in? This was the reason as to why I did not want to associate with some of my bros. So, Brother Nashi, because of the pressure that I had home, my wife always threatening me that she was going to divorce me, and I still had a temporary residence, which means that you are tied to the South African. She can do whatever that she wants with you. She can abuse you. You don't have anything that you can do because she is like your God, your little God. So when I started selling these things, I got caught within a very short period of time. I was arrested. It was a stop and search. Then I lost my job and I went to prison, and I came out of prison in the year 2014. For her, I am grateful for my wife because she did not divorce me. When I was in prison, she would come, she would see me, and I did not know that on the outside, my wife, she had moved on, even though she would come and visit me in prison all those years when I was locked up. When I came out in the year 2014, it was in March, and then that was when my nightmare returned back to me. My wife took me home. She was now staying in another place in an apartment, but I did not know that my wife, she was now a prostitute. She was working in the street. So she was still that same woman who was very disrespectful, and now the prostitution side had made it to become very worse. My wife was very tribalistic. She would tell me stuff that was so hurtful. She would make me clean up after him, and it was so damaging to me, even shouting at me in front of my daughter. I knew that she was sleeping with other men, but there was nothing that I could do. I tried to get a job, but now with a criminal record, it was very difficult. My wife hid our marriage certificate, so I could not, and there was no way. I did not have a plan to divorce him because I was scared that if I leave, I'll be risking my legal status in South Africa. I was literally a prisoner in my own house. After the lockdown, then I started driving an Uber, then Bolt. By 2023, that was when I started to think about what had brought me to South Africa. I had this hunger for success. I wanted to become something big, to make my life to become something. And in order for me to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve in this life, I was supposed to start a business. Without starting a business, there was no way I thought that I could ever amount to anything. So then I started working for another guy who was a Nigerian who had some cars. He inspired me because he had a fleet of cars, and I was working for him and I would give him the money at the end of the week. So I wanted to be like him, owning a fleet of cars and having people paying me at the end of the week. That was when a ritualist approached me. This was another Nigerian guy who had a panel beating shop. We had become good friends. We had met once because he had his brother that was in prison at the same prison that I was at. So he offered me a way to get even 10 Bolt and Uber cars in 1 year, but the price was that I was supposed to sacrifice my own daughter. They wanted me to sacrifice my daughter, and I was about to do it. When I looked at my daughter, I said, she is just a girl, and I am not supposed to do something like this because I had named her after my own mother, even though the guy had said you can have more children when you are rich. I kept on looking at my daughter at night. I would go and check up on him while she was fast asleep, and I would be like, but I did not bring my daughter into this world so that I can sacrifice him. And I would start to cry. When my wife would walk into the bedroom, he would ask me, what is making me to cry? Then I would tell her that the reason why I would be crying, it is because we do not have enough money. Then she would return back to bed. So I kept on looking at him and I said, no. I remembered that I met Jesus in prison. It was around 2012 when things were really hard and I started to pray. So I said, no. The moment that I refused, then that guy said, okay, he was not going to help me. So since that time when I refused to sacrifice my daughter, I can say that life has become like a living hell for me. I can't seem to get a proper job. The one that I went to university for, I trained for IT, but I have applied to countless companies. I think it is because of my criminal record that makes companies not want to hire me, as well as being a foreigner on top of that. So if I did not have a criminal record, I think that it was going to be a little bit better. But with my criminal background, it is so difficult. And the stigma as a Nigerian in South Africa currently, it is quite complicated. So there is a guy that I want to thank him on your platform. This guy, he gave me his car, even though each and every week I have to give him money, but he's very flexible. Brother, I do not rest. The way that I am working, I am not even resting. As for my wife, she really does not even care about me. She dates men. She goes out with men. She really does not care. She calls me names. One day she said that I was a worthless Nigerian foreigner, and it is very painful. So sometimes I work 18 hours a day, and I would be driving and driving, trying to save money. I hope that by the end of this year, I would have paid off this car, because me and my new boss, we had an arrangement that this year, if I work really hard, I can work whilst I am trying to pay off this car. That is why I am not resting. So this is where I am, and I pray it all the times. To my brothers who are in this country, you just need to make sure that you stay away from friends that are criminals. Even if you are not wealthy, it is okay, as long as you can just have something to eat at the end of the day. That is all that matters in this life right now. So I just want to encourage other guys out there that are involved in criminal activity. Prison life, it is not okay. I learned a lot when I was in prison, and I do not wish to return back to prison. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Let us speak with our dear brother in the comment section. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world. He's saying that when he got arrested, that was when he met Jesus Christ. If it was not for that, he's saying that I could have sacrificed my own daughter. Why do you think that his wife has not divorced him yet? Does he know, does he feel it that one day the grace of God is going to locate him and he's going to become a rich man? Why does she abuse him so much, and yet she does not ask for a divorce? Tell me what you think in the comment section.